Today's video will be a map guide on Hell's Heaven, and luckily these maps are mirrored, so I only need to go over one side. But instead of saying left or right, I'll try to give you some key things to look out for so you know which side you're on and which direction you want to go. Now, immediately coming out of spawn, you're going to see stairs on one side and a ramp on the other. Stairs are over here on this side on the left for this one, and the stair side will take you up to the high ground, and the ramp side will take you over towards the Spidey Cliff side, I'm going to call it. So keep that in mind for whichever hero you want to play. If you're Spidey, you're obviously going to the Ram side. And if you're Psylocke, Hela, somebody who wants to have the high ground, stair side is great for you. Now, there are health packs closer towards the spawn side, which are hardly ever used, but they're good to know about. There's this one here on the ramp side, and there's another one over here on the stair side. Those are rarely used, but good to know that they're there. There's another one here at the bottom of the ramp, which is just up the stairs when you get closer towards the point. This one I use very frequently. Then, of course, there's this health pack all the way back here. This is usually for all your flankers, your highly mobile heroes, kind of utilize that one a lot. Your Psylocks, your Spideys, etc. And on the other side, you will see health packs over here, another one there, and there's obviously this one in this room, which everyone knows about. And of course, there's the main one here on the centerpiece towards this cliff side. Now, as you start to walk out of spawn, you're going to have, usually your DPS are going to pick up one of the off angle side. It's either the ramp or the stairs, and your tanks are going to try and push main and just try to take space as quickly as possible. The job of the tanks is sort of get you to get as much space as possible, so that way it's safe for your DPS to have these off angles. The more access to these off angles your DPS has, the more efficient their damage can be applied. Now remember, your job as a DPS is to take those angles. If you're all firing from main, it means that the enemy can take cover and they'll always be behind cover from your entire team. So what your DPS want to do, say for instance, like this Psylocke here, the Psylocke really realistically doesn't want to be here for very long. What they want to do is try and get an angle in which they can get up here to try and deny cover. As you can see, Cap is here, it would deny cover from him. She could be over here to try and deny cover. Or if you are obviously Spidey, you could be over here and also denying that same cover as well, because now he has access to the pit. Now, the other part about this map is it moves. All of Hell's Heaven maps has different ways that it moves, but there is a consistent way to know when it's going to move. Now, these movable barriers pop out when the centerpiece goes down, and the way that you know that the centerpiece is about to go up is you can kind of look to two things. One, as it goes down, it'll start to go back up, and you'll see this ring here where it's starting to slowly get itself out. But you also see that once these barriers pop up, this centerpiece is going to pop up right afterwards. And that, when it is up like this, it is up for about 35 seconds, and when it goes back down, it'll be down for 22 seconds. But there's still a way to figure out when this is about to drop as well. There will be lights that flash as well as a siren noise that goes off that you will see right... Wait, there it is. So you see the lights, you hear the sirens, now you know it's about to drop back down. So you kind of depend, especially on this thing, to utilize it as cover. It's always easiest to fight when this thing is raised up because it's more consistent cover. These moving platforms are kind of annoying, but they do also move very consistently all the same way. The first ones come out and they stop this side. The second one comes out, rotates in, and then this one will rotate all the way back as well, and then those will pop up, and obviously this one will then go back up as well. This door here does go up and down. It's not as consistent with what the centerpiece here is doing, but it is on a like every 25 seconds and 30-second timer. It's a little bit more inconsistent and it's harder to keep track of, but I haven't really found a way to figure out which is which or when it's going to go up and down. But the most important one is just knowing how this centerpiece here works. Now, once you have taken access and control over this point, your team is usually going to do what this team here is doing, which they're going to push up and try and deny space from the enemy team. Now, the biggest mistake I see people make on domination maps is they push too far forward when they have control over the point. Someone dies, the enemy team rushes, and they end up taking the point back. So like right here, in this instance here, you can see that Psylocke is applying pressure and pushing forward, but she's not doing anything too careless. Now, with her team pushed back all the way back here, she's waiting for her tanks. You can see her doing a team check to see what her team is up to and following up on like what their positioning is. So you don't want to walk all the way out here to this position typically because it's just too dangerous. You can if you feel that you have enough pressure, but you have to remember that once you start to walk backwards, this is a long stretch with no cover, right? This is a much safer spot to hold, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to just slow the enemy's progression towards the point. Because you can see like right here, even though Spidey dies and even though he gets back really fast, this is a 6v5 and the enemy team knows it, and the enemy team can now apply a lot of pressure to try and rush the point while Spidey is dead. because even though he's going to come back, quote unquote, quicker than everyone else, he's still going to be gone for about 17 seconds before you can get back into the fight. The enemy team is going to know this and they're going to apply a lot of pressure. So typically what you're going to want to do is once you're holding this doorway, you're going to want to have someone else contesting the space up here. You're going to want to have someone watching the space up here. And if you are on the opposite side, you're going to want to obviously contest those areas. You're going to want to go over here to try and deny to deny enemy space to try and find an off angle. Go over here or go over here to try and take these off angles. You can see here that when you're taking these off angles as a DPS, you have great access to seeing where the enemy is. So you're applying pressure from two ways. And when you apply pressure from two ways like that, you don't need to get a kill. Just simply applying pressure like that will force the enemy team to back up, which will give your tanks more space, which will give you more space. So something to keep in mind. The other ways you can take is obviously you can see the Psylocke here doing the same thing, taking the off angle route. You don't want to all group up, trying to find a way to get access to the enemy team. And you can see her taking an angle. You can see how I don't even need to understand or know exactly what the enemy DPS, was doing at the time. They're all sort of, everyone's going to try and work that same way, which is trying to take those off angles, try and deny that space and try and take access to the point. So keep that in mind of always like rotating around, applying pressure. And don't be afraid that if you are a tank to try and take an off angle, you can see here that Meg and Emma are standing next to each other. They can apply pressure this way together. But at the same time, if Meg was shooting this direction and Emma wanted to come over here and take another angle, that is also something that I would recommend doing. It's something that I do a lot as well. Even though I play DPS as my main, because I'm good at DPS, I take some of those same fundamentals and I apply them to tanks. I apply them to supports. Everybody in the game does everything. Everybody can off angle. Everybody can apply pressure. Everybody can take space. It's just certain roles do it better than others, but that doesn't mean that you can't do it. Tanks are, especially like Mag and Emma, who apply a lot of pressure. They're really, really good at creating that sort of off angling pressure themselves. Something I forgot to mention was that after you get done holding this choke here and the enemy team is applying enough damage and pressure and forcing you backwards, like the blue team is here to the pink team, they're going to force you back to this choke point. This choke point is the next most important one that you're going to try and hold down for as long as possible because of the fact that in order to get through this choke point, a lot of times you have to sort of force your way through, usually through the use of ultimates or something. It also helps because of the fact that if you have like a rocket, for instance, you can put his amplifier up here, which splits the enemy team in half. So that means that anyone who's back here can't see the amp, but your entire team can still get access and utilize the amp so they can't break it. This is the reason why this choke point is so crucial and so difficult to try and break through. It's just a very, very strong hold spot. This is also why, too, that on defense, it's very crucial that you try to stay alive because when you have control over the objective already, all you're trying to do is hold on to it for as long as possible. So tanks in this position are more than anything just trying to keep the enemy team from walking forward and taking this space. Both tanks are going to try and keep the enemy team in this room and away from these areas here. The DPS supports, everybody has a job to try and control that space. But realistically, you're not trying to aim for kills when you have control over the objective. What you're trying to aim for is you're trying not to die. The only time you really need to secure kills is when it gets to 99 and you need to, secure the kills to get them off the points so you can secure the win. But ultimately, when you have control over the objective, hold down the line, hold the defense, and hold on to the point for as long as humanly possible to try and get the percentage as high as you can. That is more valuable than trying to, for instance, dive in here now, try to 1v6 the enemy team, die, and then the rest of your team is slowly going to fall because of the fact that they're down a player. Like I said, that is the biggest mistake that most of the time is the reason why people lose on domination maps is taking unnecessary fights when they don't have to. But you can play the game slow. Let your tanks hold space and look for your opportunities to get someone who made a mistake on the enemy team and step out of position. Don't play aggressive. Let them force their way through this doorway and make a mistake and then capitalize on that mistake. So I think that basically covers like what you want to do on this point. I don't think I missed too much. If you are a hit scan, typically, like I said, you might want to take these high ground angles over here, or even using the stairwell. You really utilize these pillars here and utilize them as cover as you try to, take angles and apply pressure to the enemy team. Don't ever stand out in the open and just fight free for all. I know I tell you, I broke a record on this, but you always want to play to live. Always utilize your cover. You'll stay alive a lot longer, which means you'll win more games. So I think that basically covers the first map here. So we will now move on to the second map. Moving on to the next map, well, this one will be the Red Rocks map. I don't exactly know the name for them, but here you're going to see crystals on one side and a lava pit on the other. The crystal side will take you over to the Spidey Pull section, which is the lava pit over here on this side. And then the lava pit at the start will take you all the way to the high ground stairs over here on the opposite side here. Now, as far as health packs, there is obviously one here, there is one here, and there is another one over here on the outside, on the outskirts. The other, of course, this one is a pretty obvious one. Everyone knows the ones in the center. And there is also one over here. These typically, of course, like I said, like in the other map, they aren't used very often, but it is good to know that they are there. Now, when approaching this map, the tanks are, of course, going to immediately rush out and are going to try and take as much space as possible. They're just going to rush straight to the point. What you want to try and do is take access to this space as quickly as possible. Right here, you're going to see it lowered to begin with. The lower map at the start here, you can get access in here as sort of like a safe little cubby. A great way to get an off angle as a DPS, or especially like a highly mobile one, a Psylocke or something, is you can get in through here and you can start to attack and take away cover from the enemy. And you also have it use it as a safe little place to hide until you can, regain your health or supports. Maybe you can, like a rocket can launch an orb in there. There is, of course, a health pack over here as well as a jump pad that allows you to go all the way back up. A lot of times I've also used this area as a section to hide. After, if I see my team losing a fight, I might go down here and just sort of grab the health pack and wait for my team to regroup. But first, what you're going to want to do as tanks is you're going to want to push out and take the space as quickly as possible. There's this section here that also goes up and around, which is a good little place to deny the enemy from cover. You can see here the enemy team is starting to push forward. You can see now as the ults are going off, what's going to happen is this map won't move until the first team captures it. And then once the team captures it, it'll be about 38 to 42 seconds. I haven't figured out exactly what it is, but what's going to happen is 38 to 42 seconds after the point is captured, then it'll start to go back down again. It'll do the opposite of whatever it's in. So then after that, it won't move the map again until the enemy team completely flips it. So that's something to keep in mind. There is a consistency to these maps. It's just sort of hard to remember. And a good way to sort of remember it is it's about 30% will equal about a 38 to 42 seconds. So if you've got the map for 30%, it'll then start to rotate on you. So here with the map being like this, where it's raised up, you have more access to different areas. You have this area that pushes out here to the high ground. You have this area here, which is a little hideaway cubby. And this thing is what will push out this way to start to close the space off once it lowers back down again. And now that it is raised back up, now these doorways open up and go over here, and they can go all the way around for like a long flank. Not someplace I very commonly use because of the fact you're cutting yourself off from your team so much. And here, once the area raises up, this section blocks off, and now you have access to these areas over here. Typically, what you're going to see happen is that once the one team takes the point, they're going to do like they did in the other map, which is they're going to push forward and they're going to try and deny the enemy space from walking forward. They're going to try and keep them from gaining, control, getting close to the point for as long as possible. And they're just trying to apply damage to keep them back. The enemy team is trying to apply damage to get them to walk forward. And you're going to want to, typically, just like before, you're going to want to try and take angles. I personally, as Psylocke or highly mobile characters, once again, I might try to tank over here. You can even do this, of course, as like a hit scan. Hit scan just means that once they spot you, you kind of have to leave a bit sooner. But you always want to try and find those angles in which you can attack the enemy team and from a safe distance and deny cover from the enemy. And let me see if there's not too much to go over here, I think, but yeah, let's see if we can get the platform to go back down as well. Okay, yeah. So here, it'll go back down. Whenever it is like this, you'll also see this top section change here. This high ground spot over here is a really fantastic spot. This is the area where your DPS will be contesting a lot of the times. Because as you can see here, you get access to the enemy team in a lot of great ways. If you have access to this area, it allows you to provide a lot of pressure directly onto the point. So typically what's going to happen is if you're playing DPS, you're going to come into this area and you're going to find another DPS. And that's where the duel will happen. If you win that duel, you can kind of basically secure the point for your team on your own. You can fight up here for this high ground as well. It's a little bit more dangerous because of, once again, you're going to be out of the LOS of your team most likely. But this area is like this area on this side here is the one that is the most highly contested. This is typically the place where most of the time, most of the DPS usually fight over. Otherwise, there's a great little example here, I think, at the beginning as well, where sort of an example of what you want to do, what you want to see your team do right here. So you can see here in this situation what this Psylocke is doing, what this Mag is doing. This is a perfect example of what you want to do as a team. As Mag and Emma are pushing up here and pushing this Emma back, this Emma now has to deal with them, but this Psylocke is entirely out of the LOS of the enemy team, but is applying amazing pressure onto the Emma, which forces her to take a lot of damage, get low and get close to dying. And even though they don't get the kill, they force resources out of her and force her to back up. So now when she walks forward, she doesn't have the resources to use offensively. A big thing of what you're trying to do is you're always trying to force those resources out in a defensive way so that way they can't use them to make plays. That's sort of the thing, it's the game isn't all about trying to get kills. Sometimes it's about trying to force those resources so that way it puts your team in a better spot. And yeah, another thing you can do is of course go up here and get these high ground over here and get this sort of off angle. Flankers utilize this a lot. Rocket res beacons, they are as soon as they come out of the gate, they're usually pretty predictable to see where they're going to set up. Myself included, I'm guilty of this. They'll usually always set up back here. So if you're ever going up against a rocket, if you were playing a highly mobile character, always try to take care of the res station first. That should be first and foremost the thing because of the fact that that's free value right there. And if you're on a team and you're going up against a rocket and you're a tank or a support, you need to try to live long enough for your DPS to take out that res beacon. So, you don't want to play too aggressive when one of your DPS is going for that, because there is downtime whenever you go to kill the res beacon that they will be able to apply a little bit more pressure towards you. Just something to keep in mind. Another thing also, you can fit your res beacon up here. So after you push the enemy team out and sort of, push them back and you start to deny them space, you can push your res beacon up there in case your team is pushed forward. A good cheeky little spot to have. I've also put it up here, and when I've had like the penny team up and cause spider mines to drop down below and get free kills, another great little happy accident that can happen. But yeah, I think that covers most of this point here. Those are typically the areas I go to try and attack from, and how I can sort of depend on the map to change. Anyway, yeah, on that note, we'll jump into the third map. Okay, the third map here on Hell's Heaven is much easier to remember and to know what's going to happen and when. Immediately right out the gate, everyone's going to rush the same way. Usually everyone's going down main. It's rare you sort of come into these other rooms. It's usually when you're chasing someone or trying to get off some really cheeky flank. But because you're so isolated, it's a very dangerous place to sort of be. That being said, I have found myself in these rooms a few different times. So if you're walking out and you see the stairways to the left, you will bump into the jump pad room, which will take you up here to a health pack. This will take you over here. This door eventually opens up into the point until the map shifts. But for now, as you walk up, everyone's usually walking down main. They're first going to break the doors. As soon as you break the doors, you have access to this room here, the jump pad, as well as up to this high ground here. Now, a lot of times what's going to happen is a lot of DPS will move forward. And as the tanks start to walk towards main, most of the tanks being non-mobile will usually walk over here and try and take space. The DPS are going to try and break this wall and usually try to get over here to try and fight for these angles up here. You will because this high ground here is a really great spot to apply pressure and use as cover to stay away from the enemy team. I really love using these areas, especially when you're highly mobile. And so you're typically going to bump into other DPS on these paths. Another way is that after you push forward and you break down that door, sometimes you can sort of get a cheeky flank off this way. With this door being broken, you can kind of jump over onto this edge. You can get a full flank off. If there's a rock, you can destroy the res beacon. You can also walk up through this area, but usually if you walk through these stairs, they'll be able to see you. So maybe not always the one that I use, but still sometimes one that I definitely do utilize from time to time. As soon as you get closer towards the point here, the contesting this area over here is really beneficial because once again, you're always trying to provide areas where you can apply pressure, and you're able to get those off angles right here because you have access to so much cover, and you can see the enemy team. Now, as you push up, this personally is one of my favorite places up here to sort of contest for high ground. As I push up, I will try to take the high ground up here. So that way now, as they walk out, you can see that Psylocke here can apply pressure and shoot directly down on them. I personally wouldn't have jumped down right there because you can see like once she goes right back up anyway. And now as her team is shooting from one direction, she's shooting from another direction. And now Phoenix has no LOS on the Psylocke, and the Psylocke has great LOS on the entire enemy team to apply pressure here. Another great place, of course, to stand is over here. You have access to the health pack. Oh, and there's also health packs in these rooms over here. These areas are good to utilize. It's good to use, but it's not my favorite because the cover is sort of minimal. I kind of use it as sort of a last resort. I much prefer more so to fight over here on the right side.
This
Now,
area is
this
yours.
map is a lot easier to try and predict what's going to happen because of the fact that once the map gets to 50% in total, not just on one side, but 50% in total. So one side could have 23, another side could have 27, or it could be all 50% on one side. So once again, it gets raised to about 50-ish%, and then it'll change soon after that. And map will shift. Now that you see the map shift, you see it start to change. This doorway is now going to shut, and this doorway is now going to open up, just like that. So now the map shifts. You have access to different areas. The side opens up over here. And now, once it's after 50%, now, or it's about 60% once this side fully opens up. Now, if you're playing Jeff or something, now this pit opens up so you can spit people off. It does not open before that, so do not try to spit them off beforehand. And now that the map has shifted, it's done some different things. One important thing to remember is that as this area starts to shift, you can get crushed by this area if you do not move out of it soon enough. The jump pad large doorway that opens up in the beginning. Oh, I'm getting lost here. So you'll see this. This stairway will start to go away very quickly, and once it does, now if you are not a mobile enough hero, you will get crushed in this room if you are not careful. So something important to remember is that you don't want to be in there. The other thing you also want to remember is that because the map shifts, you do not want to have your team get cut in half and lose people on the other side. It's something you can kind of rely on though, because you always know that it's going to happen around a little bit after the 50% mark. Because like right here, Emma starts to back up, and look how right here now the Rocket has a problem. The Rocket is completely split off from the rest of his team. This puts his team at a slight disadvantage, but not too bad at the moment. But I've seen definitely worse. Is that there's times where you're going to see one or two get cut off, and the rest of the team will be on the other side. It takes so much time to get around that by the time they get around, the people will end up dying. So what you want to do is kind of plan around that and sort of either back up and come to the point so that way you're safe if you have control over it, or if you don't have control over it, either rush out as the team as a whole or wait back and wait for the map to shift and then walk out if you can. But you definitely do not want to split yourself up. Another important thing to remember is that when the map shifts, weird things happen. I think I've seen different ultimates like Invis Woman ult and stuff move, and some other things move along with it. So yeah, as soon as the map starts to shift and it starts to placing ultimates and anything you have to place down, it starts to do wonky things sometimes. So be sort of prepared for that. I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen because even I don't remember all the different things that could happen. Now, once it comes to where you have control over the point, we'll fast forward a little bit here. You're going to see, once again, team starts to push up, starts to take space, starts to try and hold this corner. The reason why we're going to hold this corner is because of the fact that you do not want to walk out farther past here. If you walk out farther past here, there's no cover. You're relying entirely on heals to keep you alive. And the moment your supports have to reload, you always end up dying. So hold the corner, hold the places that are safe. Me personally, if I'm a DPS, highly mobile one, I might go over here, go off for a cheeky flank, another health pack in here, of course, as well. This is the jump pad room. So there's also another one over here. And yeah, access to the point as well. Now, once again, if you are trying to make a cheeky play and you want to try and get the drop on them, like say you have control over the objective, you want to try and ult them before they can ult you, this is a cool little room to hide out in. Everyone's probably going to walk past you. You can see they're walking forward. This is typically what ends up happening. And now, once the last person is out, now you see Spidey doing the thing that I'm talking about. He's getting the cheeky play off early to try and distract them, and which puts Bucky over there being distracted, and he can go back to his team. But this is a great little spot to be, but it's also a huge risk if you're a DPS. So you have to be very calculated about it, right? But ultimately, at the same time, though, if you get a pick back there, especially with it being like 94% like that, he basically wins it for the team. And what you're trying to do is they're running this team here, purple team, pink team, is running the clock out. And now that it's in overtime, now all they need to do is just win one fight, and then they win the game. And yeah, I think that basically covers the areas you're sort of going to want to contest. Like I said, like a lot of times if you're playing hit scan and stuff, you're going to be usually utilizing these areas over here. Maybe you take a cheeky angle over here and you try and get a quick pick. Anytime you're playing a non-mobile DPS hero, you want to try and find these angles, get a quick pick, and then get out. Or try and apply damage, and then once they see you, try to get out of there before they jump on you because they will collapse sooner. Playing non-mobile DPS is no different than mobile DPS. It's just that you need to predict what's going to happen a lot sooner, and you can't rely on just your mobility or reaction time to get you out. You need to predict what's going to happen next. And as for supports, you're typically a lot of times going to want to play back. I personally like to play back here, or I will also play up here. But also, you see me over here on this side. I can use this as an off angle as well. This kind of confuses the crap out of them with so much visual clutter on the screen. A lot of times this rocket, I will actually hang out on the side of the enemy because of the fact that they don't usually see it coming. They don't usually predict it. And this is really safe for me because now they kind of need to come out and then back up and around in order to try and get to me. But the enemy team still doesn't have LOS on me. So I can provide a lot of really safe heals here up here for a really long time. And because I'm such a mobile support on rocket, this is a safe place for me to be. Don't always default to feeling like you need to take a specific position. As a support, try and get creative about where you think you can stand, especially understanding what the enemy team comp is and what's to be afraid of. Because being up there, the only person that can really contest me up here is Psylocke, and I'm not too worried about a single Psylocke and fighting her. Yeah. That being said, I think this covers most of it here. Oh yeah, there's also health packs up here. These are areas I frequently use where before the map fully opens up, or before it fully transitions, I use this area a lot to try and get up to the high ground, and I'm applying pressure. Using these areas too, like if the enemy team is pushed up after the map has shifted a bit, there we go. After the map has shifted, I'll usually go through these rooms as well to try and apply damage and get through. This is what this room is really great for. As one team walks down main, you can take another angle to try and apply pressure both, both before and after the map transition here. So you see here, because like once my team starts to push this direction, I push here and I start to deny cover from the enemy team as well. And I can go through here and do the same thing. Remember, whenever you're taking those extreme off angles, those extreme routes, it is getting you greater access to the enemy team, denying them more cover, but it's a higher risk, higher reward. So, where you position is going to be entirely up to you. And, you always know that if you die, it means that you went too far and you didn't back out soon enough. But, sometimes when those games are feeling like you just can't make any progress, sometimes you need to take those high risks. But anyway, that's all I got for Hell's Heaven. Hopefully this helped you understand better how the maps shift and how to plan around it. And yeah, if you have any questions, leave them down below.